Is Cruella a symptom of Disney's current creative bankruptcy? Hi, I'm Anaji, and this is FMV Review. So let's do a freestyle version of the Cruella movie synopsis. And by freestyle, I don't mean I'm going to be saying any bars. I'm just going to say what I remember this movie being about. So we are following Cruella, who, after having suffered a tragedy early in her childhood, now is running with a gang of hooligans, pulling off cons. She eventually starts to work for this fashion house because it's always been her dream to do fashion stuff. And then you watch as she comes up against an adversary played by Emma Thompson. Yep, there you go. That's what it is. If you were like, oh, that wasn't descriptive enough, go watch the movie. All right, so I don't have a whole lot good to say about this movie. That shouldn't really be too much of a surprise. So I'm going to start with the things that I liked. I think this movie is very stylish. I would actually say it's probably one of the best things about this movie is that it looks good. I like fashion, and I was digging I don't exactly know what time period this was to be in. I think they want to say that they're in the 60s, but I'm also getting 70s vibes. But I thought the outfits looked cool, so at least visually I was engaged. I do think the cinematography is really flashy, has a kind of Scorsese-esque feel, so I dug that. That's at least kind of different for some of these Disney movies. I thought whoever designed like the sets too did like a really great job. I just found my eye looking and going, man, this movie actually looks expensive and I guess a little more tangible than some of the more expensive Disney CGI fests. So there we go. There's just some of the things I like. Now the rest of it is just gonna be all right. So this movie has so much music that it was distracting. I felt as if they were leaning on the music to give scenes energy and tone because the movie lacked it. And also, I just have to say this: Hollywood, stop using "Sympathy for the Devil" by the Rolling Stones. We need to stop using this music for characters who were seen as bad or who are supposed to be like badass. Stop using this song. Martin Scorsese has buried this song. Just stop. Just stop. Every time I hear this song pop up in a trailer now or in a movie, I can't help but just sigh. Just uh why? I think this movie is way too long. This movie's almost 2.5 hours, and for a movie that is 2.5 hours, it does not build to anything. It does not really have any momentum going on. I don't understand, and I don't really understand why that was necessarily, being that this movie has at least kind of an interesting sort of thing of being a heist movie, but does not seem to understand how heist movies work. Heist movies have very particular ways that they work, like, hey, you should tell us what the plan is before you go and do the plan. That way we can get some tension out of how well is the plan going and how much you're having to not go with the plan. But this movie almost never really does that. And also, I was starting to realize too, watching this movie, because we've seen quite a few of these like Disney villain prequel story kind of movies, right? One of the things I noticed with this movie is that the character of Cruella, she never really runs into any really bad obstacles for the most part. Everything comes pretty easy to her, or convenient things happen to help her. And I realize that a lot of these movies, they like lack tension because it's as if Disney's not willing to put their characters in like certain bad situations. They want it to be, they want to hit that 4 quadrant filmmaking where they want to make it for everybody. So I don't know if that's a symptom of that, but it does not help here. But let me get into what I'm going to say is probably the thing I dislike the most about this movie. But before I do that, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I don't really like the way Disney they do these prequel movies, especially with their villains, because I find that they run into this problem where in certain instances, they're leaning on the source material, right? They're like, hey, you know who Cruella is. She's from 101 Dalmatians. And because they know that character's iconic, they lean on that stuff sometimes as a way to do like character shorthand instead of like building a plot that actually earns that stuff. But then there's other moments where they have the character do or say certain things that contradicts the character we know they're going to be in the future, right? Like if you've watched this movie, I want you to think about everything that happens in this movie and then plant yourself into that character's future of, okay, she does all this heist and she does all this stuff. And then ultimately, where we're going to find this character in like 20, 30 years is that she's going to be an older woman who wants to kill a bunch of dogs to make a coat. And it also seems as if, like, if you're gonna make this prequel about a villain character, I don't know, why don't you let them be villainous? This movie seems so scared to actually have Emma Stone's Cruella DeVille do anything too bad because they want audiences to like her. But the whole reason we've come to watch her is because we know her as a bad guy. It comes off even worse because Emma Thompson, who is playing the villain here, she is just a bad guy. And she's one of the best parts of the movies for it because she doesn't try to be anything else. She's just a terrible person. She gets some great one-liners. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. The relationship between her and Emma Stone feels sort of like the Devil Wears Prada. That feels like this movie wanted to do that too. It just seems strange to me that you have a movie about a villain, but you won't let them be villainous because you want characters to like them. But then it turns out in your movie, one of the only performances that's actually good and memorable is the villain who, Emma Thompson, let's be real, she's kind of doing like a Cruella DeVille performance, right? It's almost like where Emma Stone's character will be in the future that we know that character has. So why didn't you just let this character do that? And I just think ultimately with Disney stuff, they're sort of that, like, their four quadrant filmmaking thing is so, it's so empty, right? They want to appeal to everybody to the point that they just don't appeal to anybody, right? Like they have this character in here who's supposed to be coded as gay, but they never really say it. It's like Disney wants those points for, oh look, we're being inclusive without really pushing away their more maybe conservative mainstream audience, but they want all the money from all the different areas, but they also want credit for certain things that they're not really doing. So yeah, I guess you can tell that I don't really love this movie. So I would basically say with Cruella, if you want a visually engaging movie with some really great, fun throwback fashion from like the 60s and 70s, and a pretty biting, fun performance from Emma Thompson, as long as you're okay with the movie being pretty soulless and overly using music and pop culture iconography in a way that's just so, it feels like a commercial at times. Disney, I don't know what's going on with you. Then yeah, that's how I would sum up Cruella. Pretty empty and soulless. So with that, I'm going to give Cruella a 6 out of 10. So yeah, if you guys saw this movie, let me know what you think, because yeah, I've been noticing watching these Disney remakes that there's a certain feel to them and quality to them that really does not do anything for me. Maybe, and I just want to see if I'm the only person who feels like that. So until then, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.